All right, so let's jump into a topic I know a lot of you have been asking about: procrastination and self-sabotage.
Yeah, it seems like everyone struggles with these from time to time.
Right, and you sent in this transcript from a YouTube video called Overcome Procrastination and Self-Sabotage today. So we're
Uh-huh.
going to kind of go through that and see what kind of golden nuggets we can find.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this video is that it's not just offering these like surface level tips, you know?
Yeah.
It really emphasizes getting to the root of these behaviors.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. Like, why is it so important to understand the root? It's not like we're consciously choosing to procrastinate, right?
Yeah, no, it's rarely a conscious choice.
Right.
It's, think of it like this.
Okay.
Procrastination is often a symptom, not the disease itself.
Okay.
The video talks about like fear of failure and anxiety, even perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
Those are often the underlying culprits that are driving us to put things off.
So before we even think about to-do lists and time management, we need to kind of address those deeper issues.
Exactly. Like imagine trying to build a house on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very stable.
Nope.
Similarly, trying to implement productivity strategies without addressing those underlying anxieties.
Yeah.
It's like setting yourself up for, well, more procrastination.
Or procrastination, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Um, so let's say we've done a little bit of introspection, and we've kind of identified some of those triggers.
hmm
Where do we go from there? Does this video offer any guidance?
It does. And this is where goal setting comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So the video really stresses setting clear, achievable goals,
Okay.
not just vague aspirations.
Mm.
We're talking specific, measurable objectives.
So instead of saying, I want to be more organized, it's more like, I want to clean my desk by Friday afternoon.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
That specificity gives you something tangible to work towards
Yeah.
a clear target.
Yeah.
When you have that, it's much easier to stay motivated and avoid those procrastination pitfalls.
Okay, that makes total sense. Speaking of avoiding pitfalls, the video also talks about this concept of chunking, breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Have you found that to be effective in your own life?
It's a classic strategy for a reason.
Okay.
Like, think about how daunting a massive project can feel.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get overwhelmed and avoid it altogether.
That's totally.
But if you break it down into smaller steps, it suddenly feels less like climbing Mount Everest
Mm-hmm.
and more like a series of manageable hills.
Okay, so it's about shifting your perspective, making the task feel less intimidating.
Right.
But how does that actually help us overcome procrastination?
It all comes down to momentum. So by focusing on completing one small chunk at a time,
Okay.
you build a sense of accomplishment, which in turn fuels your motivation to tackle the next chunk.
Yeah.
It becomes this positive cycle instead of that dreaded procrastination spiral.
Gotcha. So we've addressed those underlying anxieties. We've set clear, specific goals. We've chunked those goals down into little bite-sized pieces. What else does this video have for us in our battle against procrastination and self-sabotage?
So now it's time to bring in some structure. The video highlights the power of a structured daily schedule
Oh, yeah.
for enhancing your productivity and focus.
I can see how that would be helpful. Instead of like wasting all this mental energy deciding what to do next,
Right.
you already have a plan laid out, and that eliminates that decision fatigue that can happen.
Exactly. And it's not just about reducing decision fatigue.
Okay.
Routine also plays a role in like training your brain to expect focused work at certain times.
Okay.
So it becomes less about willpower and more about simply following the plan you've set for yourself.
To building those good habits into your day.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now, speaking of building positive habits, the video also talks about the role of positive affirmations.
Yes. And this ties back to addressing the root causes of procrastination.
Okay.
So if your inner dialogue is filled with self-doubt and negativity, it's going to be a constant uphill battle to stay motivated.
Mm-hmm.
So affirmations are a way to combat those negative thoughts and create a more supportive internal environment.
So it's like replacing that critical inner voice with a cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly.
You're essentially training your brain to focus on your strengths and potential,
Right.
which I can imagine would be really powerful in overcoming self-sabotage.
Absolutely.
I love that. It's like giving yourself a pep talk throughout the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got positive affirmations for mindset,
Mm-hmm.
but what about like practical time management tools? Does the video touch on that?
Absolutely. It specifically recommends using calendars and timers,
Okay.
which are classic time management techniques for a reason.
But is there a risk of falling into the trap of underestimating how long things will take? Because I feel like that can lead to feeling overwhelmed and, you guessed it, procrastinating even more.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
And that's where those timers can really come in handy. They help you get a realistic sense of how long tasks actually take,
right.
so it can be a valuable reality check.
It's like shining a light on those little hidden time wasters that we often don't even realize are eating up our day.
Exactly.
Okay, and speaking of distractions, the video also emphasizes minimizing those as much as possible.
Right. Creating a conducive workspace is key.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about physical clutter.
Okay.
Think about all the digital distractions that constantly bombard us.
Yeah.
Emails, notifications, social media.
Yeah, those are the worst.
Right.
But simply turning off notifications doesn't always feel like enough.
Right.
Are there any other tips that the video offers?
It doesn't go into specifics,
Mm,
but there's so many strategies out there.
yeah.
Website blockers, designated times for checking email and social media.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works best for you and your workflow.
So it's about taking control of your digital environment
Mm-hmm.
instead of letting it control you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, I'm curious about this point the video raises, building a supportive network.
Yes.
How does that fit into this whole overcoming procrastination and self-sabotage thing?
This one is often overlooked, but it's incredibly powerful.
Okay.
Imagine having a group of colleagues, friends, or family
Mm-hmm.
who understand your goals and are genuinely cheering you on.
Yeah.
It's like having this built-in accountability system.
Right.
But it's more than that.
Okay.
It's about that sense of community and shared experience.
You're not in it alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're struggling, having those people you can talk to who truly understand can make all the difference.
Like a safety net to catch you when you stumble.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, now before we wrap up this part of our deep dives, there's one more thing that I want to mention that the video really highlights.
Yeah.
And it's a whole list of actionable strategies for tackling procrastination and self-sabotage.
Oh, yes.
Like, there's some real gems in here. Acknowledging your fears, setting those smaller goals, rewarding yourself, practicing mindfulness, leveraging productivity apps.
Wow.
Like, the list goes on and on. It's like a treasure chest of productivity tips.
Yeah.
We can't possibly cover all of them in one go.
Right.
But what are some that really stood out to you?
Okay, let's start with acknowledging your fears and insecurities.
Okay.
We touched on this earlier, but it's about taking that a step further and really facing those fears head on.
Okay.
Oftentimes what's holding us back isn't the task itself, but the fear of what might happen if we fail,
Yeah.
or even if we succeed.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's about digging deeper and understanding those underlying fears, not just brushing them aside.
Okay, so not just ignoring them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you avoid those fears, they tend to fester and grow even stronger.
Oh, yeah.
But by acknowledging them, you can start to chip away at them and reclaim your power.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about rewarding yourself for completing tasks? How does that fit into the bigger picture?
Think about how often we focus on what we haven't done,
Mm,
which just reinforces that negative self-talk.
yeah.
But by rewarding ourselves, even for small wins,
Yeah.
we're creating a positive feedback loop.
Okay.
It's like training your brain to associate productivity with pleasure.
I love that. Who doesn't love a little celebration? Even if it's something small, I feel like it can make a big difference in how we approach tasks.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got time for one more strategy before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive. What are your thoughts? What else should we touch on?
Okay, I think we should touch on mindfulness.
Okay.
So the video talks about how being present in the moment can help us stay focused and avoid those distractions we were discussing earlier.
Mindfulness seems to be everywhere these days, but I'll admit I'm still a little bit fuzzy on what it actually means and how it relates to productivity.
Yeah, it's all about awareness without judgment.
Okay.
So think of it as a mental pause button.
Okay.
It's about noticing when you're getting distracted,
Mhm.
when those negative thoughts are creeping in, or when you're starting to feel overwhelmed.
Oh.
So instead of just reacting automatically,
Yeah.
you're creating space to make a conscious choice.
Okay, so it's about making that conscious choice.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And that's a powerful skill to have, not just for overcoming procrastination,
Right.
but for like navigating any challenge in life.
Exactly.
This has been such a great discussion.
Yeah, it has.
I feel like we've already uncovered so much, but there's still more to explore.
Yes, we've got several more strategies to unpack, plus some final thoughts on how to put all of this into action.
Awesome. So make sure to join us for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll continue our exploration of these powerful strategies for overcoming procrastination and self-sabotage.
Yes, we'll see you then.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive,
Part 2.
part 2.
Yeah.
We left off talking about mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious, what other gems have you found in this treasure chest of productivity tips?
Okay, so many good ones.
All right.
But one that really resonates with me
Okay.
is the idea of learning to say no to non-essential tasks.
Yeah,
It's something I feel like a lot of us struggle with,
I know.
including myself.
Yeah, me too. It's so easy to kind of fall into that trap of people pleasing or feeling like you have to say yes to every request.
Right.
But how does that tie back to procrastination?
Yeah. It's about recognizing
Yeah.
that our time and energy are finite resources.
Right.
So every time we say yes to something that isn't truly aligned with our goals,
Okay.
we're essentially saying no to something that might actually move us closer to where we want to be.
Yeah.
And that can create a sense of overwhelm and resentment, which, often leads to procrastination.
So it's not about being selfish
Right.
or like saying no to everything,
No.
but it's about being mindful
Exactly.
of your commitments and priorities.
Yes, it's about setting those healthy boundaries
Yep.
and protecting your time and energy so you can focus on the things that truly matter.
Okay. Makes sense. What other strategies are we diving into today?
Another one that I think is crucial, especially for those of us who kind of get caught up in the day-to-day grind,
Yeah.
is regularly reviewing your progress.
Okay.
Because it's so easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when you're just constantly focused on checking things off the to-do list.
It's like you're so busy running that you forget to look back and see how far you've come.
Exactly.
Right.
And taking that time to reflect on your progress,
Okay.
both the wins and the setbacks, can be incredibly motivating and insightful.
Yeah.
It allows you to celebrate your accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
but also adjust your approach if something's not working.
So it's not just about looking back and patting yourself on the back,
Right.
but it's about using those insights to actually improve your strategies and make sure you're on the right path.
Exactly. It's all about that continuous improvement,
Yeah.
that constant learning and adapting to find what works best for you.
I love that it's like you're creating a feedback loop for your productivity.
Right.
Okay, now there's a few more strategies that are on the list that I want to make sure we touch on before we move on.
Absolutely.
Educating yourself on the psychology behind procrastination and self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
Using visualization techniques,
Yes.
addressing fears of failure or success. What are your thoughts on those?
I think those are some of the most powerful tools we have at our disposal.
Okay.
Understanding the psychology behind procrastination,
Mm.
it's like shining a light on those subconscious patterns that are driving our actions.
Yeah.
And it gives us the power to identify those patterns and start to change them.
So it's about moving beyond those surface level solutions and really getting to the core of the issue.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about visualization? How does that play into this?
So visualization is about creating a mental picture of yourself successfully completing a task.
Okay.
It's like this mental rehearsal
Okay.
that can actually increase your motivation
Yeah.
and make it more likely that you'll follow through.
I've always heard about athletes using that,
Yes.
but I've never really considered applying that to everyday tasks.
Right. It's incredibly effective.
Yeah.
So when you can clearly visualize the outcome you want,
Okay.
it just becomes easier to stay focused and motivated, even when faced with challenges.
Okay. That makes sense. And lastly, addressing those fears of failure or success, how do those tie into self-sabotage?
Yeah, I mean, those fears are often at the heart of self-sabotage.
Okay.
We might subconsciously fear what might happen if we actually achieve our goals.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be fear of the unknown, fear of change,
Yeah.
or even fear of not being worthy of success.
So it's like we're holding ourselves back because we're afraid of what might happen
Okay.
if we actually reach our full potential.
Yeah, and by acknowledging those fears and working through them,
Okay.
we can break free from those self-limiting patterns and give ourselves permission to succeed.
That's such a powerful message. Now, there's a few more on this list that we haven't talked about. Developing resilience. Yeah.
Practicing decision-making skills, keeping a journal, engaging in regular physical activity,
Mm-hmm.
seeking professional help when needed,
Yes.
surrounding yourself with positive influences.
Yeah.
That's quite the comprehensive list.
It is. It's very thorough.
It is.
And I think it highlights the fact that overcoming procrastination and self-sabotage
Mm-hmm.
is often about more than just time management techniques.
Okay.
It's about addressing those underlying emotional and psychological factors that are contributing to these behaviors.
Right.
So it's about taking a holistic approach to personal development and recognizing that all these different aspects of our lives are interconnected.
So it's like acknowledging that we're complex beings.
Right.
And our productivity isn't just about checking things off a list.
Exactly.
It's about taking care of ourselves on all these different levels,
Yeah.
mental, emotional, and physical.
Exactly. And this video does such a great job of emphasizing that interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to be perfect in every area of your life.
Okay. But it's about recognizing that taking care of yourself as a whole will ultimately support your productivity and well-being.
That's great. I'm definitely feeling inspired, but I also have to admit this is a lot to take in.
Right.
Where do we even begin?
Yeah. The key is to remember you don't have to do everything at once.
Right.
Start with 1 or 2 strategies that resonate with you
Okay.
and focus on implementing those consistently. Small steps lead to big changes.
Yeah, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and just want to do everything at once.
Right.
But that just leads to burnout and frustration.
Exactly.
So it's about finding what works for you and building those habits gradually.
Yes, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding your own personal productivity toolkit
Yeah.
and tailoring it to your unique needs and preferences.
Giving yourself permission to try different things
Absolutely.
and see what sticks.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, and remember,
Yeah.
it's a journey. Yeah.
Not a destination.
It is.
There will be ups and downs, successes and setbacks, but the key is to just keep learning, keep growing,
Absolutely.
and keep moving forward.
Yes.
I love it. This has been such a rich discussion.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like we've covered so much ground already.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to hear your final thoughts on how to put all this into action.
Yes. Let's tie it all together in our final segment
Okay.
and discuss how you can start implementing these powerful techniques to overcome procrastination and self-sabotage for good.
Awesome. So join us for part 3 of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Where we'll wrap up our exploration and leave you with some actionable steps
Absolutely.
that you can take on your journey to peak productivity. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into how to actually overcome procrastination and self-sabotage.
Yes. The rubber hits the road now.
Exactly. We've been exploring all these ideas and strategies, but now it's time to talk about actually putting all this knowledge into action.
Bridging that gap. Yes. How do we move from the knowing to the doing?
Right.
What does this video say about making these strategies a part of our everyday lives?
One of the most important things to remember, I think,
Okay.
is that lasting change, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
This video really emphasizes starting small
Okay.
and focusing on building those sustainable habits.
Yeah, it's so easy to get excited
Oh, totally.
when you learn new things
Yeah.
and you want to just change everything at once.
Yeah, you want to overhaul everything.
Yeah.
But,
that's not sustainable.
right, it never worked.
It never works. Yeah.
It's like trying to climb Mount Everest in one giant leap.
Right.
You're much more likely to succeed
Take those small steps.
if you just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Focus on consistency
Okay.
and progress over perfection.
So instead of trying to do all 12 strategies at once,
Oh,
pick
yeah.
1 or 2
Yeah,
that really speak to you
exactly.
and start there. So maybe that's committing to 15 minutes of focused work each day,
Yes, a great example.
or using a timer to kind of stay on track with a difficult task.
Absolutely perfect.
And speaking of the effects of these small changes,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the role of self-awareness. We talked about it earlier, but how does that help us?
So self-awareness is key.
Okay.
It's like having this superpower.
Okay.
Notice when you're starting to procrastinate, what triggers those urges, what patterns keep popping up.
So you become like a detective of your own mind,
Cool with that?
looking for those clues.
Yes.
And then you can kind of understand those habits better.
And the more you understand those patterns, the better equipped you'll be to kind of interrupt them
Okay.
and choose a different path.
So it's about making that conscious choice rather than just being on autopilot
Yes.
and reacting the same way every time.
Okay.
Now, I want to acknowledge this is a lot to take in.
It is.
So it's okay to feel a little overwhelmed.
Yeah. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself.
It's a process.
It's a journey, yeah.
There will be setbacks.
You'll probably procrastinate at some point.
It's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it.
Exactly. View it as a learning experience. And don't be afraid to reach out for support.
Yes, great.
If you're feeling stuck,
Talk to somebody?
yeah, talk to a friend, family member,
Yeah.
therapist, coach, whoever you trust.
Sometimes just having that support system can make all the difference.
And you know what? The fact that you're even listening to this
Yes.
means that you're already on the right track.
Absolutely.
You're committed to growth and change,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal.
It is.
So any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they embark on this journey?
I want to leave you with this thought.
Hmm.
Believe in your ability to change.
Okay.
You have the power to break free from these self-defeating cycles. Create a life that truly aligns with your goals and your values.
I love that. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive on overcoming procrastination and self-sabotage.
Yes.
Hopefully you've learned some new strategies and you feel empowered to
I hope so.
make some changes.
Absolutely.
So remember, you have the power to change.
Yes, you do.
You can create a life that you truly love.
Absolutely.
And we're cheering you on every step of the way.
We are.
Until next time, keep diving deep,
Yes.
keep learning, and keep striving for that amazing life that you deserve.
Absolutely.